Yo, my people. Hope you're good. Hope you're well. Hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed. Do all of that stuff, people. The love has been mad on the channel over the summer and it's still going crazy. But yeah, I'm here to talk. People are wondering, what's this guy smiling about now? One day he's angry, one day he's happy. What's going on? But there's a bit to smile about. Personally, I've had a good weekend. I've gone to my goddaughter's 5th birthday. Beautiful occasion. Nice to catch up with friends as well. Then I had a barbecue with the family. Nearly run out of food, but we sorted that one out. And amongst it all, Arsenal pulled off their best performance of pre-season. A nice, comfy 3-0 win, domination, fluidity, transition looking sweet, goals for the right players. I say right players, we're going to get into that. And yeah, what's there not to be happy with at this moment in time? Before we really deep things delve into it, because there's a couple of things over the last few days I've looked at online and thought, that ain't what I want to be hearing. But the focus right now, let's look at the game and then we'll get into all the other good stuff like Nwaneri contract, for example. Very, very good news, very positive news. A 5-year deal. But yeah, we'll talk about that shortly, people. By now, surely it's over a minute in. You've hit the like button. You've subscribed. You've done what you need to do. Whether you're loving the content or whether you're here to hate and leave one or two comments saying you're unsubscribing. When I look at your history on the channel, you haven't even left a comment previously with your account being active for the last 12 years. I wonder, are you even subscribed at all? But let's talk, people. Bilbao, great performance. Strongest team, strongest performance. Some people might say silly Turkish, reactionary. You know, now you've seen the strongest team in action. I know we're a good team. I know we're a strong team. And I know when our strongest 11 are out there or close to the strongest 11, we're going to pull out good performances and we're going to pull out wins, as has been the evidence over the last 3 seasons, including last season. Even when you look at it overall and we drew a hell of a lot of games, you look at the squad going into last season, and you can understand with the injuries why we ended up dropping so many points in the fashion we did. But you know, this Bilbao performance, I look at the first 11. I think all in, I was surprised Calafiori was starting ahead of Lewis Skelly, but at the same time, I was also happy that he was back because he needs a run of games. And when he went down against Newcastle, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, might have been AC. I think it was Newcastle. I think it was Newcastle. When he went down against Newcastle, I thought, not again. And comments from Arteta about a week or so ago, it didn't really look like there was a return in sight. And then bang, I see him in the starting lineup. I like Calafiori. I've seen good things. I've seen some worrying things, especially at left back position, where he started. Nice to see Gabriel and Saliba starting the game together as well for the first time. But yeah, Calafiori needs a bit of consistency. He can offer us something for sure, but he needs to, fingers crossed, put the injuries behind him. I know it's not on him to do that. Your body does what your body does, and sometimes it's unfortunate falls which tend to be the reason for a couple of his absences over the last year or so, that can cause it. But hopefully, Calafiori, he gets a decent amount of game time and minutes and consistency under his belt. So come October, November, we're looking at that left back, left centre back position, knowing we're in a very strong place. Never mind Kivior, who I hope isn't on the chopping block. I hope we do keep him, considering he's stepped in a few times over the last couple seasons and done a good job. So defensively, we know what it is. Like I said in the last video, I'm not worried about us defensively. It's more the transition and it's more the attack and the formula we have to create a potent attack again. But this game, all in all, I mean, let me start with Mendy, because I've stated a couple of times throughout preseason that I'm yet to see. Listen, preseason is not about greatness, but I'm yet to see the performances that the performance that we saw yesterday, for example, against Bilbao, but in general, the performances that led to so many teams wanting him. Nah, that was probably reactionary of me because obviously he needs a few games. But my point with that was that he hasn't played with Declan Rice much in preseason, and surely, ideally, in preparation for your season ahead, you want your two centre midfielders to be getting used to each other as much as possible. And they both started, and I think they both complemented each other well. The pivot was great. You know, the pivot was great, and I know it's only pre-season. I say this for the losses. I say this for the wins. I know it's only pre-season, but this is what you want to be seeing. You want to be seeing Gabriel, Saliba starting, even though they know what each other's about over the years. You want to see Declan Rice and Mendy starting to get used to each other. We know their attributes on paper. It looks like, all in midfield with those two starting in the 6 and 8 position, or double pivot, however, because they transition a lot, as we saw against Bilbao. Um, Attribute wise, we're in a very healthy state with those two starting. As long as they complement each other well, read each other well, know when each other's going to make the runs that the other needs to cover for, and so on, because that's what the pivot is about sometimes. And as you can see with Zubimendi, he's equally comfortable closer to the final third than he is, just in front of the defense or around the center circle, which is something I feel we needed in general in the midfield. So that's nice to see. That's a very good positive, and obviously he got an assist at the back of it. But it's not just the assist; it's the general play from Zubimendi. If it needs a one-touch pass, he does it right. If he needs to, take it in, take a couple, assess a long ball over the top, he done that sweetly. If he needs to calm it down, he can do that. If he needs to speed it up, he can do that. I mentioned that, as a positive, a strength about his coming into the club. And we saw it in full effect against Bilbao. And listen, Rice's part to play in it can't be undermined, because I feel like, again, complemented very well. But Zubimendi, in my opinion, was the star of the show. All round midfield performance, winning the ball back. Yeah, I can't forget that, because that was part of a great performance from him as well. So that was very, very positive to see Zubimendi not only excelling, but with Rice, and both already being able to read each other quite well and protect each other quite well, because it's needed, especially in the Premier League next week when, the pace really does pick up, the intensity really does pick up. So that was a very good positive to see Zubimendi playing at that level comfortably as well, so soon into his Arsenal career. So hopefully that transitioned into next Sunday, because next Sunday is the big one, OT. Man United game week 1. If we can get a midfield performance like that out of Zubimendi and Rice, we win that game. We win that game. Yes, I know Man United got a new attack. It looks very healthy, but yeah, that midfield performance we saw from Zubimendi and Rice, if they can transition that with the pick up in pace, pick up in intensity, we control that game. We get the necessary chances. We make the necessary chances, whether it's through Zubimendi's passing or whether it's through Rice's box crashing or in and around causing issues. And Yakarez obviously up top. Now the goal, the ball in from Zubimendi, the first time ball in, beautiful ball in, right? And a lot's being made of the ball and the cross, and how good it was. And it was a good ball, to take it first time. Number one, refreshing generally, because last season, how many times did we see the ball get cut back there to an older guard who is not on his favoured foot for that type of cross, or a Partey or a Jorginho, who then choose to kind of continue passing it around, maybe to the other side, maybe back round. It was just way too much. Zubimendi, early ball in. The hardest work was done by Yakarez. Let's not forget it come from a corner already, so runs were made already. Then, most players had to readjust, backtrack, and with Zubimendi firing in the first time cross, that not only, gets the better of the defenders at times, the attackers sometimes are not ready for it, but Yakarez runs across, I mean, after all the talk about headed goals and how few he scored over the last couple of seasons or over his career, whatever it was, it's a beautiful way to kickstart your Arsenal career. It wasn't an easy header. It was a great run. Got the right amount of contact on it, just in front of the defender, glanced it in, powerful header, beautiful goal, and he's off the mark. I thought he was going to save the celebration for United, OT, but I think he played it well. He wasn't too mad about the goal. He knows his pre-season. He just gave it a couple of Ds and then thought, you know what? The fans been waiting for this. He turned around and he done it. So, the fans, I wish he got that goal against Villarreal. Little man was there. I can't lie, I was teaching him the celebration. In the end, he was playing 8-ball pool. But listen, that was Villarreal. I've spoken about Villarreal. This one's about Bilbao. And it was a great header from Yakarez. And moving on from Zubi, Rice, the credit they deserve, to Yakarez. In general, I feel like before the goal and after the goal, he was a constant threat. Whether he was dropping, which he was dropping a lot more than he has been in the first 70 minutes that we've seen him across the Tottenham and Villarreal games, he was dropping, getting himself involved a bit more. His link-up play was there to be seen. I think Martinelli in the first half, similar frustrations overall, but I think he was more involved, and partly the reasons why he was more involved is the transition from Zubimendi, especially. but also the link up with Yakarez, who kind of tends to float out towards his side a bit more. And I think that freed up Martinelli, whether to make runs in behind or whether, quick 1-2s or get the defender one-on-one. I think Yakarez's performance helped him. I think also Odegaard benefited from Mendy, Yakarez, the tightness in and around, the quick passing. We saw a couple, neat moves that involved Odegaard in it in terms of, cutting edge in the final third. But Yakarez link-up play, it was good to see. Because listen, as much as I've wanted him, over the years, I don't know how many 90-minute performances I've seen of him. It was more his goal tally, the reputation, and from what I had seen of him, that's exactly what we needed. But the link-up play stuff, that's where everyone went mad with Sesko or Sheshko or whatever, pronunciation you want to put to it, saying that he is the better suit for the club, for the position, for the tactics from Mikel. But like Mikel said after the game, it's nice to have these options. I think he stretched it a little bit. I think we still need to make moves, but we're going to talk about that later. But he said it's nice to have these options now, different styles of players. And I think that's important in any squad. Tactics are tactics and systems are systems, but you must prepare for one day your system or tactics to be found out a little, to be nullified a little. And in those moments, what can you do? What resources and tools do you have? And that's where I feel like we was let down last season with the summer window and the season we had in turn. And I feel like even over the couple of years before that, where we was on the verge of greatness, finishing second both times in different ways, shapes, and forms. Still could have done a bit better in a couple of those markets too, whether it be January or the summers that preceded it. But yeah, Yakarez, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm glad he's got off the mark before OT. Did it in front of the home fans as well. Nice little, I say little reception. It was a big reception for that goal. And general, that's what happens when you come to Arsenal Football Club. You get backed, you get supported, and that's how it should be. That's how it should be. And not only him, but Madueke coming on at halftime. I'm going to speak about that shortly too. But yeah, I wanted to mention Yokerez's link-up play. In the end, probably could have had a hat trick. I say could have. I'm not going to say should have, because I think he should have done better with the first chance he got, where Saka, constant menace, by the way, where Saka cut it back to Yakarez and he scuffed it a little. I think it might have hit both feet, and the keeper made a comfortable save. He should have done better with that. But then the post in the second half, the header from the Madueke cross got low, got a lot of power onto it. It was sneaking in. It was a fingertip save from Simon onto the post. That was unfortunate. But all in all, I mean, positive for me. He scored a header, and it was a beautiful header, run included. He nearly scored another header. Again, a more difficult position, but he still got it on target, still forced a save on another day. That's a goal. And in the first half, he got that, that scuff out of the way. Sometimes you scuff it. So I expect the next time he gets that chance against United, OT, I expect that to be hitting the back of the net and we really get the celebration out of the way. When it's passionate, run into the crowd, going mad. That's, that's where I want to see the mask being put on against United, against Leeds, against City, Liverpool, Newcastle, Forest, whoever we got in the first 6-7 games of the season. I tend to forget, but it is difficult. But yeah, happy for Yakarez. I mentioned Saka there. In general, throughout the game, did he even play? I think he might have played 90 minutes. I can't remember. But he was a menace throughout. A menace throughout. Causing the left back problems. Nico Williams didn't even want to get close to him. He didn't want to help. He knew what it was. Saka was a menace throughout. Got a goal and assist in the end. And could have got more. Like I said, Yakarez probably should have buried that chance he got, and that would have been another assist for Saka. But yeah, Saka menace throughout the game. Still our go-to guy, which that was never going to change in the summer. I think Saka is the man in the attack in terms of there's a nice balance of what he brings. He's a goal threat, but he's also a creative asset, creative threat as well. And we saw that in abundance. His goal, I mean, it was a simple finish, but it was on his right foot, and he still had to do a job. That move in general, I think when I go back to Odegaard and Yakarez and the link-up play, Gabriel wins a header. Odegaard flicks it on nicely, but not only does he flick it on nicely, he makes the run straight away, allowing Yakarez to back up the defender, lay it off to Odegaard. Again, Odegaard first time over the top, beautiful ball. I think that might have been with his right foot, and then Martinelli takes it down, and him and Saka are tight. I guess, in an ideal world, Martinelli rounds the keeper and then buries it himself. But because Saka was so tight in that moment, I think Martinelli made the right decision, lay it off to Saka, goal 2-0, and it was looking comfy at that point. Martinelli in general, though, as much as I think he was better in the first half of this game than he has been throughout the whole of pre-season, I'd still look at the head down dribble. There was moments where he should have been cutting it, 2 moments where he should have cut it back, one in particular to Saka, and instead he's, deciding to take a left foot shot with his head down. Even there was one he could have cut back to Yakarez, who was, just heading into the box. But again, Martinelli's choosing to shoot. I'm still not, I'm still not understanding the reasoning behind, not making a change, adequate change in that department, the left wing position. But Madueke comes on, and maybe it's because we've been starved on that side for a little while in terms of we know what we're going to get from Martinelli and we know what we're going to get from Trossard. Now, at times, especially with Trossard, it's a positive we get over the last 18 months anyway. And with Martinelli, you get the work rate, the defensive side of things, but that doesn't make up for the attacking side of things, in my opinion. It would have been nice to see something fresher, but we got Madueke. And I think the first couple of appearances we've seen him come off the bench in that left wing position, and Arteta mentioning he can play there, means that is the freshness being added to that position. And his cameo was a good one. Half a game, second half, I think he was good. I think maybe because he's a new signing, and I know what we're getting from Martinelli, especially right now. When he was on the ball, it felt like something more would happen than if it was Martinelli on the ball. I'm not sure if that's because Madueke was more direct, in my opinion, taking on the fullback a lot more and going, around the outside, and could have had an assist for that Yakarez goal, by the way. Had a neat flick or two around the defender down the left hand side. He's essentially playing like an overlapping left back. That he's so wide and hugging the touchline, and just asked to stretch the opposition. And when he gets the ball, more often than not, he's taking the full back on if it's 1-on-1. If he gets doubled up on, that's where he struggles and he just lays it off, which understandable. See, I'm not gonna go mad about Madueke's performance because, again, I link it to us being starved in that position of seeing some excitement at all over the last 18 months. So Madueke brings the freshness, and in my honest opinion, do I start him against United? I'll let you know later on in the week. Let things settle a bit more. Let's see if there are any more links in the market, not just incomings, hopefully incomings, but outgoings too, because 3 weeks to go, and I still feel like business needs to be done. But yeah, Madueke came on, and I liked bits and parts of his performance. Nothing great, but yeah, yeah, something different. That's how I'm gonna put it. Something different. Um, and I think no, that's not it. Last but definitely not least, Havvertz. Yeah, clip this if you need to do that. Do what you need to do, because I praise when I feel like something deserves praise. Someone deserves praise, and I criticize when I feel like someone deserves criticism. It's just my opinions, people. I don't speak for the fan base. I don't speak for anyone bar myself. There are, a lot of people in agreement with things I say, and there are a lot of people in disagreement with things I say. But Havertz, he come on and he bagged a beautiful goal. I've often said with Havertz, look at the types of goals he scores. When people even use that weak argument about he scores goals when it's still not enough. I tend to look at the type of goals he scores, and I always say the Southampton goal last season. I think it was Southampton. I think we just went behind and he brought us back in it, or we just come back in it and he put us ahead. Either or, it was a good moment. It was a good time to score, and it was a clean goal, great goal. Takes it onto his left foot, does a little shimmy, gets a yard of space, and he buries it. Clean strike through the ball, beautiful bottom corner finish. Now I still think that's his best goal in an Arsenal shirt because it's a Premier League fixture as well. That matters. This is pre-season. But this goal is probably the second best goal I've seen him score for Arsenal, in my honest opinion. The pace, the power, the touches, it was all perfect. It was all perfect, and it wasn't easy. I've seen many a player go through at Arsenal Football Club over the last 8 years, and Lacazette. Do you remember him? I think it's Europa League. He went through against someone one on one for about 40 yards, and then he tried to curl it. He went over the bar. So that chance ain't easy. Firstly, Saka again. That ball, it's gone under the radar because of the great finish and the great composure and run from Havertz. But that ball from Saka, swift movement, transition, beautiful, beautiful. When you can move the ball quick like that, when you had Havertz invaded space. Saka put it into space, and Havertz invaded that space. That's the type of space invading I want to see, not the off the ball making space for others by invading other spaces. There was space there between the defenders. Havertz was off. Saka didn't need to think. Ball over the top, beautiful ball into his run. Great touch, I think, on the fag. Second touch, great. Third touch takes it away from the defender a little bit off balance. Move, buries it. Beautiful goal. And we've got Havertz and we've got Yakarez, and I've said for a while now, for well over a year, if it turns out that Havertz is the option B, the plan B, the one that comes off the bench to change things up, the one that starts games where, we should be winning regardless of having your 20-goal a season striker on the pitch or not. We fingers crossed he's still a 20-goal season striker at us. And I mean, Yakarez there. I'm content with that. It's not sustainable on the wages he's on, but this season for sure, he's an Arsenal player. And I think, you can see he's bulked up a bit. I was impressed by his pace, even though, that's one of his attributes that, to be honest, yeah, we haven't seen enough of in terms of his pace, because we don't really play on the transition quick enough. And, that goal from Havertz, maybe a quicker transition suits him as well. Maybe it's not just the low block, slow build up, get your head on the ball, go to the touchline, win it back. And maybe there's more to him than that. But that was a great cameo because it was a great goal, and I was impressed by that goal from Havertz. So, I'm not gonna go mad about it because it is pre-season. Like, I didn't go mad about the losses. People are saying stop overreacting. I don't feel like I overreacted with any of the losses. I've just calmly spoken about it, and I've waited the next day, both occasions, to do so, just so it's not quite emotive. But yeah, all in 3-0. Bilbao failed to show up, but really that first 15 they tried a little satin, and defensively we just, you know, sorted that out. And from there they had nothing, and second half was embarrassing, and really we probably should have done a bit more, but it is what it is. Like I said, Yoker is unfortunate with one, and missed kicked the other. Martinelli should have done better with a couple opportunities. Saka menaced throughout. Odegaard looked a bit better. And Madueke come on, and I mean, not that it takes a lot to stake a claim for that position, but I think, it was something different. But we'll leave it at that, people. Like I said before, there was a couple of other positives to go into. I say a couple other. I mean, Ranieri being the main one, 5-year deal, great news, great business. Keep it moving. We've got him locked down now. He's still a young player. By the time his next contract is due, which you'd say is 2-3 years from now, if you're run sensibly, he's only going to be 2021. At most. So yeah, we've still got a lot of time with Ranieri, let alone a Max Dowman who was given a break, and I feel like part of that break is to do with the lights, camera, action. Come on, he's 15, let him do GCSEs, and then let's see what's next for him. Let's all calm down. Arteta's comments about still active in the market, and kind of alluding to being happy with the squad. I don't get the happy with the squad. We're only one man up from last season, but at the same time, we need to make some moves out and in. I still feel like we're 2 players away from being complete. In all honesty, you could argue that many teams go into a season incomplete and still pull something out. And yes, regardless of whether we get a complete 2 out of 2 in the next 3 weeks, or whether we get 1 out of 2 or 0 out of 2, the job remains the same. Let's win that Premier League title. That's what we need to do. But yeah, bit more of a positive one, people, because I feel a bit more positive this weekend. we will talk when we need to talk again. I should do a live real soon because I haven't done one in a little while. So I will do that, people. But continue supporting the pre-records, continue subscribing, sharing, liking, doing all of that stuff. I'll be back when I'm back. OG's definitely this week as well. You know, season opener. It's got to be done. Me and Curtis go subscribe to Curtis Shaw TV. Supporters Club will be back. Chris Hudson as well. So make sure you look out for that. It's always good to hear from Chris. And let me know if there's any other bits and pieces you want to see on the channel, people. Always take that in. Leave it in the comments. Hit the like button. Love for the love. I'm out, people. Peace.